All right, hey folks, it is 7 p.m. Central Standard Time here in Nashville, Tennessee. And I want to thank you for tuning in to iTA Studio Streams, special edition in the studio. We're going to get into some different stuff today. The tune you were just listening to is a tune called Stillness that I wrote over the last couple of days and had the great Victor Krause play bass on it. This tune is actually me playing piano. It's called In the Folds. And just going to play a little bit of music here for you. We're simulcasting also with liveconcerts.stream. And we want to thank them very much for simulcasting us out there on their network as well. So we're trying to reach a lot more folks and you know, go in some different directions since we're sort of in lockdown here in Nashville. We were doing just up to groups of 3 with the iTA studio streams, and we'll get back to that, you know, after the do not travel and do not congregate is lifted. Hopefully that won't be long. But obviously we hope everybody's feeling good out there, being safe, being healthy, washing your hands, singing the Oscar Mayer song for your 20-second wash. So I'm going to fade this out, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's been going on. I've been working on a lot of music these days, and it's been a lot of fun for me. So I'm going to play you some of that this evening. Before we do that, I want to let you know that you can check out the website at www.itastudiostreams.com. The studio is called Into the Air, so ITA is Into the Air, itastudiostreams.com. And you'll see that there's a donation button on the website. There's also donation info here for iTA Studio Streams. None of this money goes to me. I'm trying to raise money for buddies of mine here in town that are out of work here in Nashville, and it all goes into a particular fund that gets distributed to the folks that do the iTA studio streams. So I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for them. And we've kind of had the double whammy here in Nashville with the tornado in early March and then the coronavirus shutting things down pretty effectively here for the last while. And we're not sure when that's going to end, of course. Hopefully the health and well-being of everybody will be put first and foremost in those decisions. So what we're going to do tonight, we want to welcome you to this. Thank you for tuning in, of course. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to get into talking a little bit about a tune that I'm working on. It's an Afrobeat tune. Some of you may be familiar with Fela Kuti, Tony Allen, the music of Nigeria. And so I love that music. And so I've been working on a tune that's in that vein. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the tune for you first. I won't play the entire thing because it's a little bit long. But I'll play you, you know, probably 3, 4, 5 minutes of it, and maybe just into the solo section. I do a flute solo in this one also. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you sort of the latest version of it. I just got drum tracks in last night from Chester Thompson, the great Chester Thompson who lives here, who played with Weather Report, Frank Zappa, and Genesis. And I just got the bass tracks in literally maybe 10 or 15 minutes ago from a great friend of mine, Alana Rockland. She's on the West Coast and plays with a really incredible group of musicians called Sound Tribe Sector 9. So it's not done. I'll get keyboards on it. I've been talking with Carlos Malta about doing some fife and drum stuff at the end of this tune also, so I'm very excited about that. But I'll play you a little bit of it, and then I'm going to go back and basically deconstruct the tune so that you can sort of understand the compositional process. I'll talk you through from the original loop that I took out of Logic and brought it in, and I did a weird kind of bass thing with the saxophone and using different effects. But I'll get into all that, and so I just kind of want to show you how the tune came about and what it's morphed into. So I'll play you a little bit of it right now in its current form. It doesn't have a name, so if you have any name ideas for it, you know, feel free to put it on a $20 bill, stick it in that donation button, and we'll get it later. All right? Here we go. So we're doing a new thing tonight also where we're broadcasting out of Pro Tools. This whole setup here is Pro Tools. It's a recording software. I'll show you also a little bit later what music actually looks like. These forms that are on here, if you've never seen Pro Tools, these are the forms that the instrument makes. These are waveforms, and we'll get into that, and I'll show you the sort of minutia of that as well as we get in. And this is what I'm running through. My speakers are not on in the room because we're running entirely through the headphones. And anyhow, we'll get into that. And if you have questions, feel free to put them in, and I'll get them here. My assistant Alex will slide me stuff over from more than 6 feet away, and we'll see if we can't get answered for you. All right, thanks. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and. So you can see here also, I'm going to talk a little bit in here because I have a microphone and I can do that. So basically this cursor here, this line is showing you where we are in the tune. These are all the drum files here. I've got them pretty miniaturized. These other files are percussion files down here. And here in the middle, these are all, this is the voice of the angels, these are the horns. So I'll get a little closer also so you can see. I'll get even closer as we come in so you can really see these waveforms. Somebody asked what time signature. It's all in 4/4. Biggest source of inspiration when creating a song? We'll get into that in a minute. It's a great question. So we just modulated, and the modulation is going to go into a flute solo. I see my wife is online watching. I love this. So I'm going to close up into the flute solo here. And I can make the tracks larger also. I'll make it large. And what I did coming up also, as you can see, there are more horn parts coming up. All this stuff in through here is all horn parts. Just background figures. Second flute part also is just doing some rhythmic, almost like when a mandolin player, you know, that kind of thing. I don't want to stop listening. It sounds really good. I'll give you just another minute or so of this. And I'm going to make the flute part smaller. So I'll probably do some added percussion also. Might talk to my buddy Weedy Brahman down in New Orleans about throwing some hand percussion on this. And so now this is about to change also. After this section right here, I go into a different figure in the horns. Try to do a fade out of this. All right. Okay, so that's kind of that, and so I kind of brought you in through the solo, and it kind of goes into melody parts again towards the end. But now what I want to do is I want to take you through the process of how I actually put the tune together. And originally, this was what I had. This is what started it all. And this is just a loop. This is a loop in Logic. Whoops. Find my place here. This is a loop that I pulled out of Logic. Oops. Here it is. So this is a loop from a really great drummer who played with Fela Kuti, who's actually credited with starting Afrobeat. A guy named Tony Allen, who's still around, still producing records, still playing unbelievably well. I think he's maybe in his 80s at this point, but he's strong. He's an incredible player. So I heard this loop and I was like, man, I really like that. Okay, so then what I ended up doing is I just looped that and I played along with it, and what I ended up coming up with was this: 1, 2, 1, 2. Just put a little count in before it so I would know where it was starting for later on. So here's the Tony Allen loop, and then the single line that I came up with was this: 2, 1, 2, 3. Right, and that's what started it all. I was like, okay, I like that line, and then I came up with a secondary line, which is this. Just a repetitive kind of thing over and over. And so then I was like, okay, well, I like those. And then I kind of had some lines going kind of at the same time. It was getting a little muddy. So I thought, well, what if I did something where I had the parts sort of pyramiding into each other? So this is what I came up with. I'll give you a little less runway next time. So here it is. First line. Second line. first line, second line echoes in harmony. Right? And so then what I did is I put a harmony part into the secondary part, right? So right now it's just that. And so what I did also is I came up with a bass figure over the top of that, and I basically played it on saxophone, and then I morphed it using a bunch of different effects. I've got, what have I got in here? I've got a fuzz wah. I can't see that far without my glasses. I've got some EQ on it. I've got a fuzz wah. I've got a little bit of a delay going on. And with the EQ, I basically took out all the high end. I'm going to play you just the bass figure, actually, that I originally came up with. Here you go. And I'll put in a click track also so that you can hear it with the tempo. Okay. Here it is. Turn that bass part up a little bit for you. I'll mute all that. Here's the bass part just one more time by itself. Right, pretty repetitive, et cetera, et cetera. But just to get the idea down. So now the bass and the drums, the original drum loop by themselves, this is what that sounds like. I'll take the click track out. Right? Okay, so having the click track, recording to a grid, basically means that if we have anything to edit, we can go in and we can go beat by beat if we need to move something around. And so it's kind of a way that we record a lot these days, makes things a lot easier in the editing process. So now let me play you the bass, the drums, and that first saxophone line. I'm going to add the second one. Right? So you can see how it's starting to take form there. And what I wanted, though, is I wanted more lines than that. I wanted a third line to come in. And so I'm going to add that third line now in the saxophone, so you can hear this pyramid thing that's going on. Here it is. First line, second line, third line. So suddenly it has this body of thickness. First line, second line, third line. Right, okay, so those are the three lines of the melody in that section. And I'm gonna play you how those sound in the second section also with their harmonies together. I'm also told to remind you to donate to this wonderful cause to help out these musicians in Nashville, and how much I appreciate it and how much they will appreciate it also. As many of you know, the gigs are gone. There's nobody working. There's nobody on tour. Some of us are able to teach online, but a lot of folks are hurting. So anything you give, there's no amount that's too small, no amount that's too large. So we thank you very, very much for your generosity, of course. Okay, jumping into the second section here. Right, so it's got a thickness to it. I'm altering the sound a little bit of the horns also by growling a little bit, which that happens when I hum into the instrument and play at the same time. Okay? And so I'm like, okay, that sounds pretty great. And I knew that I wanted flute on this too. So I'm going to go from the beginning and show you where that flute comes in too. I'm going to go right in from where I counted off. And this is all still with the original loop, original bass part that I played, and just the horns. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and. Some reverb. Okay, so I've basically got the flute on that melody line as well, and you'll hear here in the middle part. Right, just adds another flavor, another ingredient, another color, another timbre. Right, and so that's all well and good, and how do you make something like that better? You add a baritone saxophone. You add the bottom part, and it really adds to the thickness of the sound. So we've got the high part now, and we're going to add the low part. Okay, so you can really hear that. Now here's that second section. That low end and the high end. So this section comes back through the melody. Right, so on and so forth. And so that's what I first came up with. And this is what I sent to not only the drummer Chester Thompson, but I also sent it to my friend Alana Rocklin. And so again, she sent me back a bass thing, and Chester sent me some drums last night. And so what I ended up doing with the loop, I'm just keeping the smallest fragment of it. There's one little part that Tony Allen plays in that loop that I really like. And so I'm just keeping that and putting that basically behind the other drums. And here's that part. I think that I've got everything muted here, so I'll even have myself muted. Here you go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and. And you know, actually right now I'm thinking about this. What could be really cool would be to have somebody vocalize that line. You know, just do like a vocal sound of those drums instead of actually leaving that loop in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play you this same thing with the new drums and the new bass. I'm just going to play you a little bit of this bass line that Alana sent to me with my count in and the click, so you can hear just the new bass line. It's way better than what I did. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, there it is. And. Right? So there's the percussion. Now if I just add the Tony Allen loop in, right, so it's already pretty grooving. And so the percussion stuff that's in there, is I've got a whole back area over here of percussion stuff that that maybe we'll talk about one time also. But I kind of went in and just kind of dug out some sounds and worked on it for a while, and just to kind of see what I could find. So I laid down some percussion stuff also, and probably get some other folks in to do that. So I'm going to add the drums. I'm going to add Chester Thompson, but I'm going to let you hear what he played first. He sent me a bunch of tracks, and as I said, Chester Thompson has played with everybody from Frank Zappa to Weather Report to Genesis to George Duke, and everybody in between. He's a brilliant musician, a great friend, lives here in Nashville, and so I'm very happy to have him on this. We've done many gigs together. Okay. Whoops, I'll leave the count in.
1, 2,
hear the click.
1,
just
2,
the drums.
3, and.
Oops. Okay, so now I'm going to let you hear the drums and what Alana played on bass.
2, 1, 2, 3, and.
Right now it's really starting to come together. Real instruments. We'll bring in the percussion. Now it's feeling good. So I'm going to go back now, and I'm going to unmute all the horn stuff and let you hear it sort of in its new form now. Now that you've heard what it was, now you can hear what it is.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and.
Allen part, bass part, drum overheads, sound on flute is called a flutter tongue. We're rolling the tongue and playing at the same time. Second A section here. When you call the right people back into the melody. Right, so on and so forth. So you can see how the tune is kind of built up from that very beginning of the loop all the way into doing really a pretty lousy bass line, quite honestly, to how it eventually morphs and becomes into something else. One of the things that I do at Pro Tools is I write a lot in Pro Tools, and it's sort of become a thing for me. Obviously, I use it to record as well, but I use it as a tool to figure out ideas, to sort of birth ideas out and try some different things. One of the other things that I want to do for you is I'm going to go into the solo section, the first solo section, which is on flute, and I'm going to play it for you so you can check it out. I'm going to go in from the section before where there's some different parts going into it. There's a modulation. Modulation is when you're going from one key up to another key or down to another key. It's basically a change of key. And so I'll point out where that happens, but you should be able to hear it. And so what I want to do also is I'm going to play a little bit of the flute solo here, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to actually record a flute solo live for you to listen to. and hopefully it'll be okay. We'll see. But I can do what's called playlisting here also. Whereas I can keep everything I have, I can go to a different track that's basically virtually on top of the other one, record on that, and still come back to what I had without losing anything. Which, when I first started using Pro Tools, I didn't know that. But I learned a lot. One of the ways I learned about using Pro Tools was actually when I was with Bela Fleck and the Flecktones, and I would watch Bela like a hawk, and I would ask him a lot of questions about what he was doing. So he was very much a mentor to me in many, many different ways, in many different areas, and I love him dearly, along with all the other Flecktones. Okay, here we go. You ready for the modulation, the change of key? Here it comes. Right here, one up a step. I'm also enlarging the flute solo area, so when you see it as it's going by, you'll be able to see it as I record after we listen to a little bit of it here. And the flutter tongue. Right, so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the camera, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to set it up so that you can actually see precisely as I'm playing it what it will look like and what it will sound like. And so, as I was saying, I can go over here where the cursor is, and I can do a new track. I'll show you. Okay, I can go into new, make a new track. Everything disappears, but it's still there on its own playlist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play into the microphone that I'm talking into, and I'm going to go from this section here, and I'm just going to play a solo and see what happens. I can also do, so this, where the cursor is where it will start to record. I can do a thing called pre-roll up here, which gives me a few seconds before the recording starts to sort of prepare myself. I'm also going to go in, this is what's called console. This is where I'm monitoring everything from. You can see my voice over here. You've probably seen that like in radio stations or whatnot. And there's a recording level here that I can change. If I turn it up, my voice gets louder. If I turn it down, my voice gets softer. Amazing. And so what I'm going to do as I record is I'm going to move some reverb over. So suddenly now my voice has reverb on it. And that's, if I click this, you can see it over here. I can change the level of it if I want to here. And which I don't want to because I like what it sounds like. And so when I record, I like to record with reverb just to have a little more warmth and that kind of thing. So we will hide that. And again, so you want to watch here as it's going on. And I'm going to do a flute solo. And Alex, I wonder if you can kind of hold this and kind of go back and forth between me playing and all of this. Okay, I think I'm in the right place. All right. Oh, for some reason I didn't go into record. Probably didn't have the record button pushed. Okay, here we go. So it's recording now. Right? So that's basically what's happening. And you can see it's being recorded here also. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. I'm going to turn this recording level down a little bit. I feel like I'm in a cave because my level is a little hot, a little strong. And so I'm going to go back and I'm going to start again. I'm going to do a little bit less level. It's peaking out here, and so that'll give me distortion if I record that way. So I'm going to go back and do it again. Yeah, so that's well, let me turn off the reverb. One moment, please. There we go. Okay. So that's the idea. It was still a little bit loud. I peaked a couple of times. And you can see actually in the waveform where the peaks are. Like here, it kind of chops off at the very top, and you can see where it's kind of stopped. But that's basically this. Well, that is the solo that I just played. And so I'm going to play it for you, and I'm going to actually go in really close. I told you I'd show you what music looks like. Okay, so again, these are the beginning waveforms, and we can go in a lot closer than this, all right? So you can see that it starts to have a roundness to it. Okay, we're getting closer, we're getting closer. We keep going, we keep going, we keep going, we keep going, we keep going. And so you can see that even though it's digital, even though it's all zeros and ones, we're still getting round, approximately round waveforms. If you went to a super microscopic level, you would see that they're not actually round, but it's a representation of a rounded wave, which is what a wave of music actually looks like. So they've been able to come pretty close representational wise to that. And I've got some good mics. Right now I'm using a KSM 44, a Shure KSM 44, which is a large diaphragm. This guy right here. It's a large diaphragm microphone. I'm doing a selfie shot. Large diaphragm microphone. It's got different patterns on it that you can use. And but it's a great sounding mic. I use this on drums quite a lot. And it sounds great on saxophone also. But I've got some others I usually use for that. So I'm going to play this for you and, just kind of see what happened and see how it sounded and blah, blah, blah. And then we'll get ready to take a few questions also and see if we can answer some of those. See where we are by the cursor. Let me get in close here so you can see it. Just follow the cursor. Follow the bouncing cursor. Yeah, keep those donations rolling in, y'all. Appreciate you very much. It's going to help a lot of folks here in Nashville. When we get here, you might be able to hear some distortion at the top end. Nope. There, just heard maybe a little distortion on that note. Right. Okay. So that's the idea. That's how we record, basically. You go in and you try a few, and you try to get something you like. I'm going to move this back over here, so you have a good view of. Move that back over there, so you have a good view of everything we're talking about here. So that's kind of how music looks. That's how we record. Obviously, I'm not going to keep that solo, but. It's fun to do that for you. I've actually never done this before in this way. But so the other solo that I have, you can see that the lines are a little smaller. I recorded at a little softer level, making sure that I wasn't going over on the recording and getting distortion or anything like that. And one of my thoughts on this tune, I mentioned my very dear friend Carlos Malta earlier. And I've been in touch with him down in Brazil, and everybody down there is fine, thank the gods. And so at the end of this tune, this is where I'm going to get him on the Brazilian fife, and hopefully get his friend Bernardo, who also plays in Pife Moderno, that brilliant group that Carlos has, to play. And that'll be on this section back here. So again, the other modulation, bringing up to another key. And this is what they'll play over here eventually. With the Pandero, Pipe. Woo! It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be a long vamp out. Big long dance party. So anyhow, that's the idea, and I've got an idea of who I want to get for keyboards also, and I don't want to confirm it before I speak with them, but yeah. So that's kind of this tune. It's starting to take form and come together, and I'm super excited about it. Again, the great Chester Thompson on drums, Alana Rockland from Sound Tribe Sector 9 on the electric bass also. Alana used to live. She used to live here. Alana Rockland used to live here in town, and we toured together and wrote music together. And she's amazing. So we're gonna take a couple of questions. Again, I want to thank you if you've already donated. Encourage you if you haven't. All the money that you donate, all your generosity goes directly to Nashville musicians who are out of work. I take nothing for doing this or iTA studio streams. So I thank you again for doing that. I want to give a shout out also to liveconcerts.stream for helping us simulcast and reach a larger audience. Okay, so there's a few questions here. When you're home and not on the road, how often do you practice? Quite a lot, actually. I also consider practice time when I'm writing. When I'm arranging, when I'm working through ideas. So I'm involved with music almost my entire day. If I'm not folding laundry, if I'm not hanging out with my wife, taking a walk, if I'm not paying bills, if I'm not doing stuff in the house, doing dishes and sweeping the floor and everything that you have to do to, keep a house rolling along, taking care of things, I'm usually here in this room working on music. And so quite a lot. I also teach. Some of you may know that I teach at Vanderbilt University. We're doing all online lessons at this point. So I'm meeting with my students for a few hours every week also. And I miss getting to see them during the days. But they're home, they're safe, they're healthy. So that's good. Second, do you have any plans to release Stillness? That was one of the pieces that we started off with at the very beginning that I just recorded over the last couple of days. Yes, I have a lot of single pieces that I do plan to release fairly soon. I've got my own record label called Ear Up Records. Ear Up, like Ear Up Records. And I've got a great friend of mine, John McKenna, going to be releasing a record soon. A great saxophone player. And I've got a duo project with a cellist out of New Orleans named Helen Gillet that is recorded and mixed. It sounds incredible. I've also got a record with a wonderful saxophonist named Derek Brown, who does a lot of beatbox stuff, some duo stuff that we did here in the studio. We've got some videos of that also. But yes, Stillness as well as In the Fold and a number of other things will be released for sure. Let's see. I said I'd answer this one earlier also. What's my biggest source of inspiration when creating a song? I would say there's two things. The groove, for sure, is a big source of inspiration, and the melody. To me, if a song doesn't have a good melody, man, I am just not interested. I'm just not interested. So I would say it's got to feel good, and it's got to have a melody for me that really hits home. Um, let's see. This is interesting. Do I find that the varying music you play, Dave Matthews Band on your own, are opposites of each other, or are they all just a combination of who you are? For me, that's a great question. For me, it's a combination of who I am. I've always been very interested in a lot of different styles of music. That probably comes from music that I grew up listening to. We had a wide variety of stuff when I was growing up as a kid. So I think so. Yeah, I think that it's all the same stuff. There's only 12 notes, and so I'm interested in a lot of different styles of music. I have 17 plus solo records out, and they're all very different than one another. I hope you'll check them out. They're all on Ear Up Records. Somebody asked me what my setup was. I had this handy just for that question. I play on tenor. I'm playing a D'Addario Select Jazz tenor piece that I helped them develop, and it's awesome. It's like the greatest mouthpiece that I've ever played. I love it. And I'm playing a Yamaha flute. I play all Yamaha saxophones. It's a Yamaha, I think, 600 series flute with a 900 series head joint. It's a 677 with a, can't see it in this light because I'm old. I think it's a 900 series head joint on the flute. Let's see. When are you playing with Bela again? I don't know because the Flecktones are off right now too. But hopefully sometime we'll all get a chance to do something again. We played at Red Rocks over the summer with Howard Levy. They asked me to come and play with them. It was a big celebration of Bela. So yeah, maybe someday we'll all do something together again, which I would really love. And I love those guys very, very much. They're all family to me. Let's see. Can we get a Jeff Koff and Carl Denson team up? Yeah, my buddy Carl Denson. We've played a number of times together. I love Carl. I've actually got a picture of him that on my desktop I have different photos that come through every couple of minutes. So I get to see Carl every day on my computer, which is awesome. This is a good question also. How do you decide when you've, quote, nailed it when doing a take in the studio? I don't think any of us are really ever satisfied completely. You come as close as you can get, and at a certain point you have to let it go and move on. I'm actually recording and helping produce a record on a wonderful saxophonist here in town named Jovan Coelho, and it's his first record. And so we've been going through and working on solos. We tracked everything, and it's going to be a beautiful record. But yeah, you have to kind of work at it. Sometimes you take a little piece from one, a little piece from another, kind of like they do in the movies. And but overdubbing and doing that splicing kind of thing has been going on for years. John Coltrane overdubbed on the Johnny Hartman record. Miles Davis on Bitches Brew and In a Silent Way. There was all that stuff was being cut up and put together. At one point in my life that I had the aha moment and knew this was what I wanted to do. I knew pretty early on, actually, probably 7th or 8th grade. I got bit by the bug and had a really great director up in a little town in Maine called Dexter, Maine, named Art Lagasse. And he had a trio that I started playing with after the summer of my 7th grade year, going into 8th grade, and until we moved right before my freshman year. So I always credit him for fanning that flame. Let's see, do you play the same type as Leroy did, and what did you learn off each other when you played together for the first time? I think you mean the same type of saxophone, maybe. We all play, Leroy and I both played all the saxophones from baritone all the way up to soprano, flute, clarinet. What do we learn off of each other? Well, we used to talk shop a lot. We used to laugh a lot and hang out, try mouthpieces, try horns. And I love Roy's playing. We all miss him, obviously, dearly. And he had such a lyrical quality that he was getting to the music through the saxophone in a really profound and beautiful way. That's probably him hitting me on the head right there. Economy is one of the things that I think about when I listen to his music. Picking like the right notes to play through that music. I mean, his sound was such a big part of the development of Dave Matthews Band, and I'm forever indebted to his musicality in that group. The parts that he came up with that Rashawn and I play now, and he was very influenced by Wayne Shorter also. Wayne was his guy, and he really loved it. What's the plunger for? People keep asking me about a plunger. Oh, the plunger. Oh, that. Okay. So this is a friend of mine. This is a trumpet player named George Tidwell, who's here in town. And a friend of ours named Jim Williamson recently passed. And so we all were at the memorial, and we played. I wrote a tune for Jim before he passed, hoping that he would be able to record it with us, which he was not able to do, of course. So we played this tune at the memorial, and we did some second line stuff also, kind of, that New Orleans thing, sending him out with love and music. And George ended up forgetting his plunger at the memorial, so I took it. There's some valve oil there also. So I don't use this for anything. I might try to use it for something on the saxophone, but it's a very different way that the sound comes out of a trumpet than it does on the saxophone. But yeah, I forgot that was over there. But that's George Tidwell's trumpet plunger. He's one of the most brilliant musicians I've ever played with, and he's been in Nashville for many, many, many years. Yeah, that's George's plunger. Tell us about your teaching in Vanderbilt. I've been there for 5 years. I love teaching. I love education. My undergraduate from the University of North Texas is in music education, and I continue to explore that. And it's fantastic. I love teaching. I miss my students. Miss being at the school, walking down the hallways, hearing everybody. So I do a lot of education work also. There's a lot of information on my website, jeffcoffin.com. There's a whole education page of what I do, the clinics that I offer, the places I've been, etc. So important. Teaching is a very important part of what I do. And let's see, the last question, do I ever play the penny whistle? I do. I play it on one of the tunes with Dave Matthews. I record with it sometimes also. It's a wonderful sound. I've got a whole jar of whistles over here. A bone whistle. I've got a penny whistle here, a D whistle, a slide whistle, all sorts of stuff from Peru, an Indian bansuri flute. So yeah, I delve into those quite a lot. Got a lot of other weird stuff in the room. So anyhow, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me. My hour is up. ITAstudiostreams.com. You can donate there. Thank you again to all of you who have generously donated tonight for the Nashville musicians. And I want to thank liveconcerts.stream.com for simulcasting us. And a big shout out to Gordon and Tariq out there. Thank you guys so much. And my assistant Alex and my other assistant Julia and Brian Horner. And all the fans out there, thank you so much for listening. There's a lot of this stuff going on. So please tune in. Help your fellow musicians. Please take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we're going to go out with, for those of you that didn't hear it earlier, we're going to go out with the tune Stillness once again with the great Victor Krauss on the bass. It was recorded a couple of days ago, and I'll be releasing this soon as well. Thank you again, and have a great night. Again, please stay healthy, and we'll talk to you real soon. Keep your eyes open for more of these. Peace. Okay, so I just found out that someone is watching from Tuva. And I want to say hi to my friends over there. And that's where they're singing multiple notes at a time. Some people call it throat singing. They call it something different. But wow, from Tuva. Love you guys. Hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for tuning in. And once again, this is Stillness with myself and Victor Krause. He's on bass, I'm on saxophone. And thank you once again for tuning in. ITAstudiostreams.com. This is called In the Studio, and we'll be doing some more of these moving forward also. And thanks for your generosity and for supporting local Nashville musicians. It means a lot to us. Take care, everybody.